Yes, everyone, I'm finally back from another hibernation. It's international break and FA Cup weekend has done this to me. We haven't seen United play in what, 3 weeks, but I'm actually not on my own for a change. I'm actually joined by a very good friend of mine and probably someone I like to rage bait on the daily basis. Keen, mate, how are you?
Yeah, yeah. I've had like a week to recover. Yeah, I've had a week to
Recover,
recover since
recover from what? Recover from what?
Prague. Prague.
What happened? Prague? What's Prague? My brother's gone there this weekend for
Are
his
we just
birthday.
are we just diving straight into this?
Straight into what? You just said
Right.
Prague. You haven't elaborated. You
You
haven't
fucking know what
elaborated.
happened in Prague. You fucking know what happened in Prague. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't think I'd be talking about football this week, and yeah, FA Cup, international break, Man United, Ireland have just dragged me back into this conversation here this evening. But yeah, it's good to be here. Good to be the first time on the channel as well. So yeah, it'd be a good laugh this evening, hopefully, and hopefully you don't rage bait me too much.
I'm not going to make any promises. Depends how I feel as the video goes on. Look, like, it's good to have you. Good to have you on. You and me go back, what, 3 years now?
Mm.
Um, I think we'll just dive straight into it. I mean, I've not done a video since probably the day of the West Ham game where we'd won four in a row and it looked like that geezer was going to get his hair cut. Um, But what do you make of it? I mean, I think, when Ruben Amorim was sacked, I mean, I don't know if we all thought top four was on the table, and suddenly after 2 games, it looked like it had to be on the table. What do you make of what do you make of Carrick's interim run until now?
I think it's been very good. I think we needed someone to come in and steady the ship because I think quite frankly it was horrible under Amram. Now you have the likes of Joe Brent saying, "Oh, but we were only 3 points off top four when Amram got sacked." How many times did we have the opportunity to get into the top four before Ruben Amram was sacked? About 5 or 6 times this season before he got sacked, and he never set foot in the top four. So I think Carrick has come in. He's given us much needed stability. He's given us hope again because that's something I don't think we've had all season really. I think one thing he's done is he's getting the best out of getting the best out of the squad and playing the players in their best positions. And like to be honest with you, it isn't rocket science. It isn't rocket science what he's actually done in all effect. Really, I think he's just platform players and he hasn't overcomplicated things. Whereas I think Ruben Amorim was trying to do something with these players that just wasn't going to happen. And with the players he wasn't adaptable enough. And then the one time he did adapt, we had our best performance of the season. And then I think he was narcissistic to go back to his way of playing, even though we had our best performance of the season. I think that's where he died on his sword. But no, I think it's been really good under Carrick. I think he's given us obviously hope again. He has us well into the top four, sitting in third. I actually think there's a chance of us finishing second this season. Funnily enough, I think that is a distinct possibility. Which, if you asked me that on December 5th, 2025, I would have said absolutely not. I'm always saying that based off the form of Manchester City in the league, that I still think they could be a dip, even though they've obviously won the Carabao Cup and they smashed Liverpool yesterday. But everyone's smashing Liverpool this season. They're like Bonnie Blue, but like genuinely, though we're doing so well this season, I think Michael Carrick is. I think he's exceeded expectations. I knew we'd have a bounce. Is as big of a bounce as what we had under Ollie in his interim term, kind of, because we've got big results under him. Whereas like under Ollie, we beat PSG, beat Arsenal, beat Chelsea. In this one, we've beaten Arsenal, Manchester City, beaten Spurs. So, and we've gone into the top four. So like it's very very similar. But I think we've played a lot of good football in this time as well. So it's going very well. I know we're going to chat about what his maybe long term future is going to look like, but no, I think it's been a really good couple of months. he's united the fan base. Like going to the ground again. Like on the Ramram, I felt like going to the ground was a bit of a slog at times because the football was so bad, and like you just knew we were going to drop points. Whereas on the Carrick, I'm like, even when whether it's at home at Old Trafford or away from home, I feel confident we'll get 3 points. Whereas on the Ramram, if I was saying I was confident, it was blind faith. So I think that alone for me, I think Carrick has done a very good job.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think and one thing people forget is obviously like when you're brought in as an interim, you're brought in to just, like you said, steady the ship. And I think what he's actually done quite well is like he's come in and he has restored that like stability. The players look a lot more confident, a lot more free. They actually look like they know what they're doing. He's made role clarity quite simple, which I think you'd be surprised how long of a way it can go in a football team, especially a depleted one, which is what we've looked like for the majority of the season. And you were right to say, like, you had people out there saying, "Oh, but we're 3 points up top four." But the amount of times we should have capitalized on teams around us, and we haven't, like dropping points. That has happened a lot this season. We haven't. And then, you know, even when you look at like the players, like when they're playing, when they're celebrating and everything, they just look like they're enjoying themselves, which is obviously quite nice because it feels like the body language was quite bad before he come in. Under Ruben Amorim, it just did not look good. I think, like you said, platforming. He's playing a lot of players in positions that fit. I think the only issue we've had really is the forward line, because you're having a mix of a fluid forward line to get your best players in, but also like you're trying to put them in places that can work, because the thing is, you've got Brian Burma who's suddenly become an elephant in the room. You'd have thought that was Cunha initially, but Cunha is actually showing that he can actually play to a manager's instructions out on that left-hand side. And then you've got Mbomo and Ahmad either fighting for the right wing spot, or you've got Mbomo playing as like a striker. But he's just not looking he's just not looking like Mbomo that we signed, the Mbomo that we probably saw early in the season. And then obviously you see Sesko's form, which is really good. So I think that's probably the only place where, because it's like no matter who we put in, because we've tried different things. We put Cunha on the left, we put Mbomo out on the left. There's been phases of play, I think, at times where we've had Ahmad like swap wings. And obviously no one really looks comfortable out on that left-hand side. So suddenly you've got a really imbalanced front three, no matter who you put in. But yeah, it's just, I think it's just really refreshing to see a settled team that is playing to their strengths as best as possible. Because I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about Amorim and the fact that he changed formation and then he was stubborn enough and arrogant enough to go back to what he was doing before. And I think that just comes down to the ego, where when you play a certain way, if it's not working, instead of trying to adapt, because your reputation is wedded to that, you do everything you can to make it work without any kind of adaptation. Because you can adapt and tweak tactically. And if you can't, then what good does that make you a coach? Realistically, there's no use going into it. If I was a manager of a retail store, and I went in as a new manager and I went, right, so this is going to be good. Our sales are going to be good, but I need to replace the entire team first before we show signs of how good we are. Like what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
What we're doing here. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're not really showing what you are as a manager. You're basically saying that my name is going to take all the results, but I need all the star quality in front of me to work with my methods to be successful. And then it's like, I know football management, obviously you can buy players, but I think it's stupid. I think it was stupid to initially hire a manager who needed 11 new players. And it was the board's job to know that. Look, I've said that enough on this channel, and I've said that enough to you as well. And I know you said similar. But I think that it's just so, refreshing. I think the one thing I'm going to ask you now actually about him is about Michael Carrick is going into the summer. Obviously, there's this managerial search, and it just feels like all the names we're probably being linked to are just becoming unavailable, and it just looks like it's only going to be either realistically, I think it's only going to be Carrick or Nagelsmann between the two. And I think as much of a low risk Carrick is, I want to ask you if you think much changes if he gets the job permanently, because it's one thing being an interim that you're there for 6 months, your job is different. Whereas if you're overseeing a 2-3 year contract, do you think we'll see much difference in terms of how we play or how we recruit or just how things are approached? Because we saw it with Ollie. Ollie came in for 6 months and it was different to when Ollie got the permanent job.
He can say that with Ollie, but Paul Pogba got injured quite early into Ollie's permanent reign, and I think we've seen Ollie's football in season 2 rather than season 1. Well, mid-season 2, when COVID happened, when Bruno came in, and we've seen Ollie's football kind of develop then when Ollie had his best players like Rashford, Martial, Bruno and Pogba all available. We've seen how well we can play with that McFred pivot as well. I don't think much changes if Carrick gets the job. I think there's obviously his own tweaks I think he'll make in midfield, I think. Obviously, because Casemiro's going to leave, he's going to want someone to, I think, sit and kind of do a similar job. I think he won't change too much from his style of being defensively organised, hit teams quickly when we get the ball, press high. I just think he keeps doing what he does in terms of being adaptable game by game. I think that's his game model. And I think that's something that he's quite good at doing. I don't think we see wholesale changes. I think maybe you see changes in personnel, maybe in midfield. You'll probably see another striker come in and maybe even a touchline winger. I think maybe Carrick may look for, because you mentioned something there about obviously we're kind of trying all different things on the left. I suppose playing Cunha there, playing Mbeumo there, Ahmad drifting out there, and then obviously he using Patrick Dorgu straight away. So what it looks like to me is he wants to play with wit and pace. Obviously going by his opening couple of games where he had Dorgu, Ahmad out wide to kind of stretch teams, and then it was giving Bruno the opportunity to kind of float and do what he wants, do Bruno Fernandes things. And then his use of Sesko and Mbeumo has been quite good there. So I don't think much changes when he comes in. I just think you'll see little tweaks. Because I think he's a very intelligent manager where he won't divert from one style to like the other end of the extreme. Whereas I feel like if Julian Nagelsmann comes in, we have to do way more of an upheaval if he comes in. I think we have to get rid of a lot of players if he comes in. I think you have to get a whole new back 4, back 5. I think you need to. I think the likes of, Kobe Mainoo, players like that may not have a future under him. Just looking at how high and intense his style is, I don't think Kobe suits it at all. And I just think in general, if Nagelsmann comes in and we play that fucking high line that he plays, I think, excuse my language here, but I think we get rode in the Premier League most weeks if Julian Nagelsmann comes in. Genuinely, I think we get absolutely rode if Nagelsmann comes in. I just don't think he's a Man United manager. I'd looked at him at Bayern Munich. I didn't really rate him there. What stands out to me is as Ollie destroyed him at Old Trafford as well with that high line he played, and with the way teams in the Premier League are playing now, playing counter-attacking football. Like generally, I know teams play we'll get on to set piece terrorists in a minute, but I genuinely think Nagelsmann will be the wrong move, because I feel like we've tried the hipster manager. We've tried it with Ten Hag. We tried it with Amorim twice in a row. Ten Hag brought us a couple of trophies, but
King, Nagelsmann is the king of the hipsters. Surely being king of the hipsters means something.
No, it doesn't, because a hipster is a hipster. At the end of the day, you can be a hipster and dress nice and look a certain way and try talk and look intelligent, but there's that, and then there's trying to be too clever. And I think he's that type of manager where he tries to be too clever. I'm trying to stay as politically correct as I can here with this, but I just genuinely feel it'd be a bad move for us to go in and get him. And I feel like the manager we have to get now has to be someone who can adapt to the Premier League. I think that like this appointment is so crucial to like. I think not only for the fans, right, but I think for Ineos as a ownership. I think this appointment is so crucial, and I feel like I'd rather them, well, not even be safe, but be more calculated in this. And that's why I was looking at managers who had Premier League experience. Like Thomas Tuchel, he's staying with England, and I don't know, half gone on him. I was looking at Carlo Ancelotti. Obviously, he won the league with Chelsea. He done quite well even in season 2, even when he got sacked. I was looking at Unai Emery, Pochettino. I was looking at all these types of managers who can come in and do a good job. Obviously, Poch is still kind of on the table because De Zerbi's gone to Spurs now. Thank God. Not Poch, I'm on about De Zerbi because I didn't want him anywhere near Man United for a number of reasons. And then, like, I look at Tuchel, he's off the table. Zidane's now off the table, even though he's not prime proven, but he was a massive name. He's obviously joining France after the World Cup. And then you have, obviously, like Emery and that there. But, like, I think Emery, what's screaming out to me is his team's burn out in the second half of the season, especially when he doesn't have a big squad. So I look at Carrick on, let's say, a 2-year deal. Let's say maybe a 2-3 year deal. I look at that as a low risk appointment because I feel like he's got the results. I think for continuity, I think it's important to have continuity, and I feel like he has the players on side as well, which I feel like going into a pre-season is important. And I feel like keeping that good form going, plus adding really good players to this squad, because I feel like I said this thing on my channel in the summer. I was like, I don't feel like we're far away from being an established top 4 team. I remember saying this to you. I said a couple of signings in these places, and this was before we had all the attackers confirmed. I felt like top 4, top 5 challenge and go for one of the domestics. Now, obviously, Amram happened and Grimsby happened, and like, look, that's all fine. But I feel like we're a top holding midfielder, a good collection of fullbacks, and a touchline winger away from a title challenge next season. Genuinely. I'm not saying that just based off just Manchester United. I'm saying that based off the current state of the Premier League. Because I feel like City are going to a rebuild with possibly Enzo Maresca next year. Liverpool are going to have to go into a season with a new manager. I know it worked out for them with Slot last year, but that was by pot luck because everyone else was shit, and everyone else is shit this year. Chelsea are rebuilding. I don't know what they're funny. I think they have a great squad, but like, again, they're just a mad club. Spurs, we don't even know if they're going to be in the Premier League between now and the end of the season. And your teams like Newcastle as well, with financial fair play, will stop them spending as well. So, like, I look at United appointing Carrick. I think keeping the continuity, getting a couple of good players, keeping the feel-good factor, and keeping the fans on side. I think when you look at all them different aspects and all them different points, I feel like it's a low-risk appointment, and I think it's the right one. Because I look at the other managers who are now available, let's say, Glasner, no way. Eddie Howe's probably going to be available in the summer. Before Amram got sacked, I was thinking he wouldn't be a bad Man United manager. But I'm looking at him now 6 months later, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're of that level to make that jump. Iraola, no. I think he's a good manager, but again, I think he could do with a bigger club first, like a Spurs or something, to maybe bridge that gap. And then you look at other managers abroad, like you're looking at what Nagelsmann, Cesc Fabregas's name was mentioned. I'd like to see Fabregas again go to like another club after Como before his name gets thrown in the hat. So like I look at Carrick's experience working in England with his 2 interim spells at United. he did okay at Middlesbrough, but the board didn't back him, and then he left. I think there's enough in him in the 2 spells he's had as interim, plus looking at his overall managerial career, and I'm like, yeah, I think there's enough to give him a 2, maybe 3-year deal on a low risk environment. And then, like, look, if it's a case where he keeps us a steady top 4 team, then after like 2 seasons, we're saying, right, okay, we need to push for the title. Then maybe go for the world class manager. Maybe Enrique becomes available after 2 years. Maybe he thinks he can do more PSG, and then he becomes available. Then maybe that. But I think right now, for me, I look at these high risk managers who are flavor of the month, and I just feel like we've tried that twice in our last 2 appointments. It hasn't worked. And then I look at the higher world class managers that are out there, they're just not available. So I feel like Carrick for me is the right man to steer the ship and just keep continuity there. And then look, let's see where we go, because as much as we slate Mikel Arteta for a lot of things, he was a kind of a low risk appointment initially, and then he got better, and they're challenging for trophies that are not getting anywhere, but yet. But I feel like he was someone that the club, Arsenal, did give time to, and he did do well to stabilise the club, and he got players and the fans on side for the most part. I'm not saying we should copy them, because I don't want us to be copying them and going into the corner looking for corners every game to win games and that being our game model. But I do think having someone who can have a connection with the fans, plus delivering results, and having the team having a stable nature, I feel like that's the right way to go now. I really, really do. And yes, there's pros to it. Yes, there's cons. But I feel like for squad harmony, the harmony between the fans, and then also not taking as much risks, I think it's the right appointment. Now, look, we could drastically drop form in the next 7 games, in my opinion, could change. But I think I've seen enough that I think if he gets back in the summer, I think he could definitely stabilise us top 4 in a couple of trophies next year. Definitely.
You make a lot of interesting points there, actually. A lot that I agree with. For example, I agree with you in the sense of like what everyone gaslit us into believing how far off this squad was off it is ridiculous, because it was nowhere near as bad as everyone says it was. And suddenly now we're probably 3 or 4 players in the first 11 away from having some kind of challenge. But obviously we need more, because we're going to start playing 50-game seasons hopefully next season. And as a result of that, we're going to need a deeper squad. I think I like Julian Nagelsmann, but one thing I've always said about him is the fact that he's not the ceiling breaker. I always feel like we need a ceiling breaker manager, someone proven who's been there and done it, to come into United and win that league title, by 2028. That's kind of but the issue is obviously like they're not available. The big names aren't available. Some fans will scoff at other big names. If I turned to you and said, get Antonio Conte in for the next 2 years and we'll win a league, I promise you. I know there is that element of, okay, but by the end of it, how bad is it going to be? Oh, but he's short term, he's this, he's that, he's this, that. And, I've done my own video discussing that kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, it will be bad, but he'll win you that league title probably. And if he wins you that league title, it starts everything. But
yeah, I see where you're going with that sentiment with Conte, right? I do. I see what you're looking for. My issue is I think Conte will blow up 6 months in, not for form, not for any of that stuff. I just think our board and Conte is a disaster waiting to happen. If you get me,
yeah.
Like, if they thought Amram was problematic and challenging him, well, fuck me. Like Antonio Conte, I think, would end up splitting Jason Wilcox within a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it was just a concept I was running with. But the point is the fact that I would have loved to have seen Ancelotti come in, but that's not looking like it's going to happen. And I've got my own issues with Nagelsmann off the pitch. to be honest. Whilst I do like the fact that when he comes in, he doesn't bring a whole coaching staff with him. He uses a lot of the coaches that are at the football club and brings a couple of his trusted people around him. But having said that, I just feel like maybe this requires a low risk. I don't think I would like to think Nagelsmann maybe isn't naive enough to think that immediately his high line is going to work like that. But I think that maybe the way the squad is built currently, you're right to suggest that the high line he plays maybe would be suicidal compared to maybe Carrick and the way Carrick and Steve Holland and Jonathan Woodgate have it built currently is focused on rest defense, stopping transitions, and we actually look good and comfortable doing that.
And I think we have a very good mid to low block under Carrick. I was watching it even in the ground against Palace, and I was looking at the gaps. You really shouldn't be looking at this stuff during the game. You should be enjoying the game. I was enjoying the game. But I was looking at the gaps between the back four and the midfield, then the midfield to obviously the forwards. And it was it was compact and it was organized and everyone knew what their jobs were. Do you know what I mean? It looked like do you know when you see a system, you know a team's well coached and you just look at it and you're like, this team is coached? That's the way I was looking at that. And I was like, right, this team is organized. I think Steve Holland is definitely a big part in that. I think the way he has his team, the way he coaches teams to be organized. A lot of people then were saying, obviously, Jonathan Woodgate and Evans have played a big part in us defending well and defending set pieces well, which doesn't actually shock me at all because two better men to go in and fucking tell Maguire, look, go stick your fucking head on it. So look, I think the way Carrick would set us up, I think if he sticks to that game model, I think we'd be fine. I think there's a couple of personnel tweaks I think could actually make his system very effective. I think, if you get a left back who can bomb up, I know Luke Shaw is good from a defensive point of view this year, but if we could get a left back who's agile and get up and down and can defend well, I think his system evolves because I feel like Dalot, shit as he is, he does get up and down. No, I'm saying how it is. As shit as Dalot is, he does give us that extra outlet out on that right-hand side. In terms of if Ahmed's coming in attacking a fullback and trying to drag him inside, Dalot more often than not does give him an option. Now, how good that option is another story for debate. But he gives him an option, whereas if you see on our left-hand side, especially with Dorgu being out, Cunha cuts inside and Luke Shaw's struggling to get beyond them. And I feel like if we had prime Luke Shaw on this team, fuck me, we'd be flying because we'd have that extra outlet, and it'd give us an extra dimension. So I feel like even with or without Carrick, I feel like top fullbacks are essential this summer for how we're going to play, especially if we stick with the 4-2-3-1, which I think fans moaned about it under Ollie, but it was our most effective system post Fergie because Jose played it as well at times. So yeah, look, I feel like to go back to it, I think Nagelsmann is tactical suicide if we get him. I really do, and I think if we get Glasner, it's another three at the back manager. I'd rather pour bleach into my eyes now and watch Man United play a three at the back again at Old Trafford. Especially Jim Ratcliffe.
You mentioned something really interesting, and it's something I've thought about as well. And when you were saying that, when you were talking about Carrick being low risk, and I think we've always said as fans, we've heard pundits say that United need a low risk appointment. And weirdly, when you say low risk, you think, okay, someone proven, someone who's been there and done it before. But Carrick right now does look more of a low risk appointment. A bit of stability or a stopgap, but I would not be opposed to Carrick getting the role permanently. Let's say he gets a 2-year contract initially, but the board are opportunistic. So in a year's time, if Carlo Ancelotti becomes available, or I don't know, just one of these prime time managers one of these just good managers who is going to come in and win at United, if one of them become available, then the board act. They have some kind of agreement, but obviously that we talk about integrity, we talk about it's not fair if Carrick does a good job. Why should they bin him after a year if there's a better manager available? But at the same time, it's like, I don't know what Carrick's ceiling is.
But I think that's where we find out next season. I think if he gets the
Yeah.
job permanently, and I think he gets his own players, I think you find out after about 5 or 6 months where his ceiling is. I think that's where you figure it out. But I think you're right. Like, I think if you put him like even on a 2-year contract with an option of a year, and he does well, and he does relatively well, stabilizes for 2 years, and then gets us into the top 4, let's say, and we're stable in the top 4, and then we go to make our next step after them 2 years. Then if like a Luis Enrique becomes available, or maybe a Thomas Tuchel or whoever that top echelon manager is after them 2 years, I feel like then I said this similar to Ollie when Ollie was manager. I was like, look, if the winner becomes available, let's say if Ollie kept finishing second or kept us in the top 4, I was like, now you go out and get the winner. Then we went out, got Eric Ten Hag, who was a hipster / cup manager. He wasn't the winner we needed. We needed someone who's a winner in terms of a manager who was a specialist at winning league titles. So I just feel like Carrick right now will be the option to go, because I feel like as well, not that a club should base their managerial appointments on this, but I feel like from a media point of view, he gets the journalists on side because he's good at dealing
I
with the
think
media.
he handles the media quite well, to be fair to him.
He's English as well, which means the journalists will want him to do well. No, that's not something that I think Manchester United or any big football club should be based a managerial appointment on, but there's optics about situations, and I feel like getting a manager like that as well, it reduces toxicity within the media. Now, you will have your talk sports, you will have your people like the United Stand who will, I think the minute Carrick, so Goldbridge is running that Carrick narrative already, but I think even a lot of the big accounts out there are all exposing Goldbridge anyway. This isn't the time where it's COVID lockdown and Goldbridge was like the main source of fan media. I think there's, as you can see, there's multiple other fan media outlets out there who are like, if I look at it now,
he's been dying down the last couple of years.
It's been dying down, but the thing is, he's not as respected as he was a couple of years ago because he's after pulling his pants down. Like, he's after exposing himself even more, That's totally the wrong analogy to use, but you know what I mean. Like,
he's gonna come after you now. He's gonna think you've accused him of indecent exposure.
I've already called him a paedophile on Twitter anyway, so it's all the one. Like,
allegedly,
yeah, allegedly. Thank you for that. He's allegedly a paedophile. But yeah,
I've seen people say that I've been noncing kids 3-0 Palace.
Yeah,
that famous
allegedly. Thing. Yeah. I'm just gonna say allegedly there, Julio, because you just said that sentence without that there. But like, look, I feel like he's the fan-friendly appointment. I feel like I think he's the one where he's the appointment that's going to, I think, get us back into the top 4 as an established team. And I think the sky's the limit for Michael Carrick. I really, really do. Look, this could be egg on my face between now and the end of the season. Who fucking knows? But I feel like he's going to be a good appointment. I see Dara's in the comments saying he's going to attack me like he attacked Rashford and Manu. Well, to be fair, he stopped some of his people working with me already. So, like, look, he knows who I am. That motherfucker knows he's already come for me already. But I know things about that. I know things about that guy. So he should not come for me. But anyway, we'll move on from there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you actually about the summer coming up because I mean I've got my own mind kind of on the 4 or 5 players I'd like to see us sign. I mean I'm of the view that like the only thing we've got confirmed at the minute is Casemiro leaving, pretty much, and then no one really from their loans are going to come back, as in the high-profile loans, Højlund, Rashford, Onana. Don't see them being integrated into the first team when they're coming back. They will clearly be moved on, hopefully. But in my head, I'm thinking based on that alone, with no one else leaving, anything less than probably 2 midfielders, a left back and a left winger, is malpractice. And
Yeah,
that's assuming Ugarte doesn't get moved on. That's assuming Xerxes doesn't get moved on. You know, these players still can go. I don't know what's going to happen regarding centre backs, even right backs.
I think if I look at the summer, right, we're going to sign at least one centre back because Mateus de Ligt. I feel like he's never actually going to play football ever again. Not going to lie, from what I've been reading, I've heard one or two things.
Mm,
If it's true, I don't think Mateus de Ligt plays another game for Man United again, and I don't think that's not down to United not wanting him. From what I've heard from the grapevine, injury wise, it's bad. Like, he's only meant to be out for a couple of weeks, and he hasn't played in
yeah,
what, 5 months. If that turns out to be true, what I heard, touch wood, it's not. I'd love for him to come back playing, but if it is, I think we're going to be in the market for another centre half in the summer.
yeah.
I think two midfielders. I think one low cost one first teamer. I think a touchline left winger because Marcus Rashford is going to leave, so we get the money for him. I think that's where we buy our touchline winger. We need a right and a left back. I think we get one of them in the summer. A left back, I think, will happen. And we'll get a striker. We'll get a striker again, probably like you said, a Danny Welbeck or someone like that, a low cost, low risk
Yeah.
striker. But yeah, like, look, I think it's very important. Like, I think the recruitment is going to be so big, but I think as well, if we do qualify for the Champions League, we can afford to have a big summer because we'll make a lot of money in that league phase. Like, we'll make a lot, even if we don't qualify out of the league phase, which we look, talking even now months in advance, it'd be a fucking disaster if we didn't. And considering the amount of teams to go through, I think if we qualify for the Champions League, we'll have a big summer because we'll have I won't say war chest, but like we'll have a big budget. Plus, Casemiro off the wage bill, Rashford off the wage bill, that bum Highland off the wage bill, Xerxes off the wage bill, and then you're talking what, maybe Luke Shaw probably leaving. I don't think he has
Mount.
a year. Mount as well.
If you
I
could
think
move
he'll
Mount on, that would be incredible because Mount
he's
on
a
250 is
250.
almost as bad as Havertz and Jesus on 565 together at Arsenal.
Yeah, so like if you move them on, right, there's a lot of money there already before we even use what we can, and then obviously we have that revolving fucking credit facility that's there as well. So yeah, like, look, I think there's an opportunity to do good things this summer, but I think we need to nail down our manager by
We're
the
gonna
end of
have
the
to
season.
we're gonna have to nail down the manager early because if you're trying to move now for players
World
and trying
Cup
to
year
get
as well,
stuff in
don't
motion,
remember.
yeah,
World Cup year as well, with an extended World Cup because there's a bigger World Cup in America. I feel like, right, if we can seal top four within the next few games, next 4 or 5 games, if we seal top four by winning them games and kind of relying on Chelsea to keep being inconsistent in Liverpool, and we get top four as early as we can. Just give Carrick the job, announce it, top four is in the bag, give Carrick the job, prep for the summer. Genuinely, I think that's what we should do. Get top four done as soon as we can. Next 4 or 5 games, get it done. Beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Go fucking, beat, who else do we have left? We've Leeds, we've Liverpool. Beat them. Top four is done. I think if we beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in a couple of weeks, it's done anyway. I genuinely do. Because look, Liverpool are as inconsistent as well anyway. And they have a double header against PSG in the Champions League. So I think they're going to drop more points over these next couple of weeks anyway. I don't feel like we're safe yet, but I feel like a couple of more wins and we're safe in the top four. And I think including in that beating Liverpool and Chelsea over these next couple of weeks does that for us. So I feel like get top four done, get it done as quickly as possible, get Carrick done, and then bang, prepare for your summer, get the bids in, talk to players, tell Carrick then he knows he has the job, he can turn around to the likes of Mason Mount. Sorry, bud, you're not fit. Off to Derby County in the summer or whoever. Casemiro, I love you. We probably wish we could have you for another year. See you later. Marcus, I'd love you to stay, but the media are hounding you here. Go enjoy Barcelona. Enjoy winning that treble this year, and enjoy all that. Like, I just feel like there's a big summer coming up, and that's actually something Darren mentioned there. It's actually a very key point. I think there's a couple of youth players as well, actually, that could make the jump for next year. I'm thinking JJ Gabriel. Jacob Devaney is playing very, very well at St. Mirren at 18 years of age in the Scottish Premier League. He's one to watch. There's obviously players there. Cheetah Wobie, could he make another jump up? Shea Lacey. Like, there's a couple of players I think of like them who, when you get rid of the Mounts and the Xerxes of the world, there's a couple of them even from the youth team. I'm thinking you probably make a jump and then put the war chest on some of them bigger players. I'm thinking out loud here. I think Carrick's doing that way, and I like the fact he's going to the youth games. He's looking longer term, and I think he's someone who I just feel like right now he's the right person to take us forward.
I think regardless of whether it's him or someone else, I actually think Carrick stays on as a coach, because I heard rumors in January that his ambition was more to be as a coach as opposed to as the main like head coach manager. And it kind of works with Nagelsmann. If Nagelsmann was the guy to come in, he likes to work with the coaches at the club. Having Steve Holland, Michael Carrick around the club still would be brilliant. So I think there is a scenario where, regardless of what Carrick's role is, he is at the club next season. But I think, I agree with you in the sense of it's a bit low risk now. It is a bit low risk just keeping him on, because then obviously the players have already worked with him. They know what he's about. I don't know if maybe that you'll see changes like in training, for example, and other aspects of it. But like Dara said, and like yourself has said, that the way he's doing things, yes, okay, his role is as a head coach. As the full-time like head coach, his role still says head coach, not interim. I want to move on. I want to touch on one final thing about recruitment quickly. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. So my ideal window in my head would be, like, I already tweeted about this last week, but I love Xerxes, but I just don't think that we're going to get him in flow state. I don't think we'll get enough minutes. I don't think the pity minutes this season have helped. So we'll probably move him on. I'd like to bring in, like you said, a Danny Welbeck, someone of the Giroud mold at Chelsea, a third choice striker, behind, in this occasion, Sesko and Cunha, who offer something different. And then you got, for example, Welbeck, who'll come in whenever and probably do a job whenever, and it's that experienced third choice striker. I think a lot of the signings I'd want us to make are proven. I think my ideal two midfielders would probably be, I would like it to be Bruno Guimaraes and Elliot Anderson. I don't think you get both. I don't even think you get both of Anderson and Tonali, but I'd love us to. There's obviously the talk of the labour groundwork being done. Wharton is a specialist passer. I really like that. But I just think that in a dream scenario, if we had all the money in the world, I'd probably say let's go Diomande for the winger, Lewis Hall at left back, and three midfielders of Wharton, Anderson, and Tonali. If that's the minimum, then and that's including a Xerxes sale, probably Shaw off the books, Mount off the books, even Ugarte moving on as well. That's without considering centre backs and anything else. That would kind of be my minimum dream window. So
do you want me just to give the rundown of the players who I think should come in then, is it?
Yeah. Just
right.
What would your window look like based on that kind of what I've said there?
Right. I don't think we'd buy a right back, so I think we keep Maz and Dallo. I don't like that, but I think that's what happened. Left back. Ooh. Not really many good left backs around, is there? Like, they're top. If Spurs go down, I wouldn't mind Udogie, I think he might be actually a decent option. Left back. I'm just thinking top of my head. Maybe your man from Wolves as well. He's quite good. I'm thinking low cost options here. And maybe move Dorgu into a left back role as well next season. Because we get the touchline winger. I think Dorgu can be that player who can help us expand width wise. So maybe you get a low cost left back. like maybe Nudagi or Hugo Breno, someone like that, of that ilk. And then you kind of pump the funds elsewhere. I think centre half, Nathan Collins should be a centre half we should be going for. I think he's played well. Juve, actually, he's quite good as well. Actually,
I'm curious. I'm curious to see if any big club are smart enough to sign him, because I really like Nathan Collins.
He's quite good. I liked him against us, Juve. Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Collins this summer anyway, because I think he's had a really good season with Brentford this year. Plus, like, I know we're going to touch on Prague at the end of this podcast, and it's going to kill me. Fuck me, he was the best, like, outside of Jason Malumbi, I think he was the best player on the pitch. He was just dominated. Patrick Schick, he got fuck all off him. He was superb. But I think if Matthias de Ligt does leave, I think he'd be a very good replacement. He's similar profile. He's good in the ball. I think him and Lisandro could actually be a brilliant partnership if Lisandro can stay fucking fit. And obviously he can rotate with Maguire, because Maguire can't play every week because he's getting on a bit. So I think Collins will be a great addition. Midfield, if I'm going two midfielders, ideally I'm going logically here, because I don't think Anderson's going to go to us. I don't think Wharton's going to go to us, but I think they're going to go to Chelsea and Manchester City. Because I believe Enzo Fernandez is going to leave Chelsea this summer, so that's my logic. I think Wharton then goes to Chelsea, and Anderson goes to City. So I'm going to go Sandro Tonali and Joe Gomez. That's my two midfielders. Left wing, then I think Ilian and Enjoy for Everton would be a good option. Again,
I like Enjoy. I really like Enjoy personally.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be a very good option. Again, he might be a bit of he may cost us 40 or 50 million, I'd say, maybe even 60 this summer. But if you look at what the likes of Brian Mbeumo and Cunha went for last season, it's kind of the benchmark. And he's had a really good season this year, and Everton could get Europe. So he is going to cost. But I think he's a quite good player. And then you look at Danny Welbeck up front. I think as a third choice striker, I think you've plagued that in my head. I think he's one of them low cost guys you do get. And then, like, if I'm getting greedy, if I do get greedy, can we buy a number 10? Can we buy someone who can not replace Bruno, but be like, do we go out there and say, Matthias Fernandez, what are you at? You know, can we go and say, look, Matthias, Bruno's here now. He's not here for maybe another year or two. He's going to be here for another year, maybe. That spot's yours if you want it. You know, someone like that, you know, even go Mount plus money for Matthias Fernandez, you know. Like, I think that look, we're talking about moving on Mount. That's a move you could probably do. Mount would probably like to go back to London as well. Like, you know, I'm saying this like West Ham might stay up. Like, they could go down, like, for all intents and purposes. But that's a move I'd like. That's someone now. If I feel like if I got the players I wanted, like the centre back, the left back, the two midfielders, and then the striker, could we make a move for like a number 10 / box to box midfielder? I think Matthias Fernandez then does that for us. I think they're the players I'd like, and also as well, like them three players in midfield are probably going to cost you a circa 170 to 200 million pounds. Them three together, which with the money that's going out, we probably break even, you know, for that. And then you can show off 50 million in Nathan Collins, you know, and then, lower cost options like Juve, then Bueno, you know, Udagi, players like that can pop up there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at now. But, like, after 7 games, like, I'm looking at just Premier League based signings. And again, there's probably players like Stiller and
I think
Ederson. I think there's players like that who we could probably go out and get. But I'm thinking, for what the way Ineos recruited last year, I know we went out and got Lamens in goal. But the way they wanted Premier League based talent, and I think we need to kind of stick with that, because that's what Fergie used to do. You know,
there's nothing wrong. City did it when City got the money. look at the amount of players they brought from Prem clubs the first couple of years, and I'm not just talking like obviously we saw them get Tevez, Adebayor, Kolo Toure. Forget those for a minute. Forget the Nasris, the Clichy as well. Santa Cruz, Bellamy, Shea Given,
Yeah,
even Wayne Bridge, who obviously I think he was. Did they nab him from Chelsea at the time? But he wasn't really a starter at Chelsea. Um, just trying to
Sean
think
Wright
who
Phillips.
else.
Sean Wright Phillips.
Sean Wright Phillips, Gareth Barry, James Milner. These players were signed from the best teams outside the top four, the original top four of Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, United. United
Yeah,
building a best 11 out of maybe not quite a best 11, but United recruiting players like the best players from outside the top six, or even the new top four, which basically is the top six, but without Chelsea and Spurs, could really go a long way
yeah,
because these Prem proven players, it minimizes the risk. Now, the reason I said Diomande was because I think Diomande offers something a little bit different. Yes, he is a project signing, but he offers something a little bit, and this is Diomande at a reasonable price. If we can't get him a reasonable price, go for it in DI. But I just think that what NDI offers, I want further inside, closer to goal, not out on the touchline,
yeah,
as good as he can be out there, which is why I think Diomande would probably be better suited. I think as a dribbler and as a 1v1 player, I think Diomande is just a little bit naturally a bit more of a winger. Whereas Njai is probably you can someone have further inside in like an inside forward kind of role, even as a second striker of some kind.
yeah. I'm taking
But
him around.
I agree with you on the Prem proven stuff. I really do.
Can I ask you a question? It's a
Yeah.
quick one before we move on. If Barcelona don't pay the money for Marcus Rashford and Carrick stays on, is there a route back for him? Yes or no?
I tweeted about this the other week, actually. What was it I said? It was like, if you still make him an outcast, you make it more difficult to sell him for the wages and the price you want. But if you integrate him, yes, there is a route back, potentially. I mean, if it were me, I'd give him if it were me in that scenario, I'd rather reintegrate him and still try to move him on if you can. Because, like I said, you want a certain price for him after the season he's just had. You could probably ask for a little bit more, but the wages make it a stumbling block. And also, if you make him an outcast again, you end up probably selling him for even less than what you want.
Yeah.
But if you reintegrate him, it might cause some kind of problems because then it's like, okay, we're reintegrating him, but he's still on
Then every
the money
week
he's
Carrick
on.
is getting. Then every week Carrick is getting asked in a press conference, Rashford this, Rashford that. Even though
Yeah,
Rashford will probably end up playing well, it's just Rashford, Rashford,
yeah,
Rashford.
exactly.
It happened with
It
Amram.
brings too much of a circus for. I don't expect Carrick to turn around and start saying that he'd rather play the goalkeeping coach who hasn't got knees instead of Rashford. I think that was a bit over dramatic, to be
I
perfectly
think
honest.
I think like regardless of what happened to Ruben Amram finishing 16th in the league or whatever it was, and then you losing the Europa League final to Spurs, that's bad enough. But to see how he exiled Rashford, to see how well he played at Villa, then going to Barcelona and doing that, like that, I don't think Ruben Amram. I didn't want to talk about that goon, right? But I don't think he should ever manage a top 30, 40 European club ever again. Genuinely. No, I'm being fucking serious. That's the biggest indictment on him ever that he said that thing about the goalkeeping coach. And then Rashford went on balled out at
Look, even because you
and
get
Villa and
some
then
people.
Barcelona,
Because
like
here's the thing. The thing is as well, like it's just a bit like, look, I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't ball out of Villa. I'm not going to sit here and say he did because I see both sides of it, to be honest. And I'm on the fence with it. But he's gone to Barcelona and he's doing some good numbers with his goal contributions. And whether you rate GA or not, that's a lot of people go by that now. We seem to be Americanized with the stats, and people do go by that. But one thing I've always said that management 101 is work with what you got. Work with what you got. How can you come into a big club? You get one of the bigger players. These young hipster managers, all they do, whether it's Maresca, whether it's Amarim, whether it was Arteta, they're just picking on players like the big high earners, And, to an extent, if the high owners aren't pulling their weight, yeah, fine. But they're doing nothing to get them on side. Sometimes it's like they're trying to pick fights with them for the sake of it. Ten Hag came in, and to be fair to Ten Hag, in that first season, he platformed Rashford beyond belief to the point where he had him playing as like an inside forward / striker. He had Weghorst playing as a pressing 10, and Bruno playing out on the left wing, right? Tactically, obviously moving players around and whatever, he still platformed a player to get 30 goals. And then the next season, he puts him back out on the touchline, which wasn't going to work. But then you had all these people just saying, "Oh, Rashford only cares about the money. Oh, he doesn't care. He's washed. He's this. He's a waster. He's just as bad as Martial. He's past it. He's this." And I'm like, just give me a tactical analysis of why he's not doing well. And the amount of people I spoke to, because on the one hand, because on the one hand, I do agree that it's like, okay, but can you be that good of a player that even if you're put on the touchline, you can still get goals? Even if you're away from goal, you still do some contribution. But no one was performing that season, respectfully. No one was doing well. And then when you McTominay and Mainu, pretty much.
Bruno the second half that season as well, he carried us.
And then when you're asking him to provide, you're asking Rashford to provide as much as he was with a striker who was having purple patches, but going long gaps without scoring in between. It is a poor indictment on the player. So I think just regardless, like this is one of the reasons why I don't want another hipster manager, because all they'll do is they'll just come in and just start fights with the big players. Yeah. They don't do enough to actually work with the players.
Like Ten Hag done it with Ronaldo, Amram done it with Rashford. I guarantee if Nagelsmann comes in, he'll want Bruno to do some load of bollocks or something.
Our fan base as well. Our fan base is stupid, right? We've been there ourselves, and we've given blind faith to managers. But every time you see something, they go, "Oh, my manager. Oh, he's binned off Ronaldo. My manager. Oh, he's a disciplinarian. Yeah, my manager. Oh, he said this about the goalkeeping coach. Yeah, my manager." And then 6 months later, you're like, "Oh, okay, maybe we made a mistake with that one."
Yeah,
but we've all seen
you see that a lot. You see that a lot, though. I think, look, people have blind faith. Look, I'm guilty of it at times, but yeah, I don't think any hipster like this. So I said like half an hour ago, I think these hipster managers should stay well clear of Man United. I think to some degree you need Man United people in charge of Man United, because they know, like, it's cliched, but they know what it means. They know the stature of the club. They know the pressure of representing the club. They have the standards of representing the club. And that's why I think Carrick needs to be the Man United manager. I think he has the balls to do it. I feel like he'd have the backing of most of the ex-players, except the overlap cunts who have gone into like fan cam these days. Roy Keane has gone into a bitter old man. Gary Neville's a grifter. I could go on. I just kill any chance you've had getting a collaboration with anyone, guys, by saying that, but sorry in advance. Like, he'd have the backing of them. Obviously, like Rooney, Rio, Hargreaves, all them lads. Then you have, I think, the match going fan base would back him. Most of the online fan base would back him, barring obviously the dumb section that follow Goldbridge. And yeah, I think it's just a universally good appointment. I think that's what we should do. So yeah, I know I asked you the question, does Rashford have a way back? And we both went down a fucking rabbit hole. But this is what happens when we don't do a show for ages. That does tend to happen. But
no, but I think we were right to talk about that, actually, because I think it's a bit of an elephant in the room in that regard, because I think people just assume he's going to get sold. But you see the way Barcelona are being about the price, they probably won't trigger it and then probably come back in either with a cheaper option or like a cheaper bid, or try and get him on loan again. And then it's like, well, what's the point?
United respectfully should tell him to fuck off to do that, and we go, hey, PSG, hey, Bayern Munich, or hey, Saudi Pro League, I don't care, like whoever, like, I don't think Rashford would go there personally. I think after the season he had, he could play for any top club in Europe, I think.
If he does come back, given the number 9 shirt for all I care, and he can be our third choice striker, because I think the way his career is going, maybe he's going to start physically feeling it a little bit the next couple of years. So if you do bring him back, you bring him in as a wing option or a backup striker.
You know my thoughts. I think he should be playing for us
Yeah,
and
of course.
starting. Look, it's look.
Do you know what you meant? Do
Yeah,
you know what? Yeah, you mentioned Saudi just quickly. Bruno, he's just having a good season.
yeah, he's been unbelievable this year. I
Do you think?
think
Do you think he gets Player of the Year?
he should. I think he is the best player in the Premier League, and I think he's the best midfielder in Europe this year. I think I said this to Phil Marsh, and we sort of agreed. I think Pedri is the only midfielder that probably chats to Bruno this season. I think Phil mentioned Fitini. I think that was a very good point. Maybe him as well. I think they're the only two that could probably go to Bruno and be like, yeah, okay, like, look, lad, you're the best, but I think we are. I think I think he's getting better year on year anyway. I think he's become a more well-rounded footballer. I think he's become a lot more disciplined. I think he's leading by example. His numbers prove that as well. I think he's just all around an exceptional footballer. And I spoke to Phil Marsh about this a couple of weeks ago and Lee Lawrence. And I asked him the question. I was like, look, you were in and around squads who won Premier League titles, won Champions Leagues, and won big trophies. And I was like, would Bruno compete in them squads? And they said, yeah. And they said naturally, them players that were playing in them squads would make Bruno even better. I think Bruno, and I agree. I think Bruno is probably the only player post Fergie, aside from Marcus Rashford, who I think could compete in an Alex Ferguson team. I'm saying compete. I'm not saying start. By the way, I'm making sure I'm correct here before dickheads twist my words. I think they're the two that I feel, especially Bruno Fernandes, where I feel like they will get into an Alex Ferguson team. If not, get in, definitely compete and push far. I think Bruno Fernandes gets a lot of games under Sir Alex Ferguson. I think Bruno Fernandes, him and a prime Wayne Rooney would be absolutely devastating. Genuinely. I'm just imagining that in my head now, thinking, well. But yeah, like, look, I think United should hold on to him for another year or two. And it's interesting what happens in the summer because Saudi are looking, Bayern are looking. He has a 55 million release clause that only has become known now, which how the fuck when they were renewing that contract, he didn't have a release clause and they put a release clause in for that new contract that he signed last year or the year before, and it was only 55 million. What the fuck? Who sanctioned that? Were any of y'all seeing when Bruno got that new contract? No.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's
Was that Richard Arnold's parting gift to us that he just said, yeah, I'm going to give Bruno Fernandes, one of the best midfielders in the world, a 55 million release clause.
no. I think
Ineos?
I think Ineos might have done it. They might have dropped the ball on it. I'm not entirely sure, actually.
They have dropped the ball because, like, you think about that now. Most clubs out there, I'm even thinking English clubs, might drop United that 55 million. And just say, like, look, let's talk to Bruno Fernandes. Because, like, he gets into Madrid's team. I think he's a better footballer than Jude Bellingham. He definitely he gets into Barcelona's team. He most definitely gets into Bayern Munich's team. He gets into any of the teams in that fucking Serie A. He gets into any of them teams. I think he definitely gets into City's team now. Even if they put the release clause in, I don't think he'd go to City. He starts for Chelsea. He starts for Liverpool. Definitely starts for Arsenal ahead of Odegaard or Eze, whichever one you want to put up against them. Like, genuinely, I think he starts for every single team in world football. And I'm talking about currently in world football, not past and present. But I'm talking currently, he does. And I feel like having that 55 million release clause is a danger point for Man United because even if he doesn't break that assist record, he's had an unbelievable season. And I'd imagine he's going to have a good World Cup as well because I think Portugal are going to go far. So yeah, I think that 55 million release clause is a bit of a worry. I think even if that wasn't there, I'd be worried if he was going to stay because it's like, right, okay, we're back in the Champions League. I've given you that. Like, see, it kind of depends on what Bruno Fernandes wants to do as well, I feel, because he might want to have a look at what business we do in the summer. And this might be one that goes into late into the window where he may have, like, he may get offers from likes of Bayern, he might get offers from like Madrid, PSG, teams like that. And he might go, wait, look, I've offers from here, Man United. What are you going to do? Are you going to go get that world-class winger? Are you going to go get that world-class number 6? So I feel like Bruno wants to win big trophies before he retires. I think he'd prefer to go do that at United. I feel like he'd prefer to go for the league and Champions League next season or at United. But I feel like there's another part of him that probably isn't in his head thinking, I'm 32. I'm going to be 32. I'm going to have limit. Like my time is kind of limited as a footballer. I'm in my peak. Can I go win the Champions League? I think he deserves to win one of the big two, either a league title in the top 3 leagues in the world or the Champions League. And I feel like he's at that pivotal time where, as much as I hate to say this, he might need to be selfish. And I absolutely hate to say that, but I feel like
I
this
think he
summer
deserves it. I think
he
he's the one
deserves it.
player we've had who deserves to be selfish because he's done nothing but turn up since he's turned up at the football club.
And that's why I feel like this summer he may need to be selfish. He may need to look at what business United do and be like, right, okay, can you get me the players to help me drive you to a league title? You know? Because I feel like he deserves to win a big title, whether it's a Champions League or a league in a top 3 league. So he may need to do what Harry Kane done. What's he at this summer?
I have no idea.
I'm just thinking, if Kane wins the Champions League this year and wins the Bundesliga, he's kind of done everything he needs to do. He needs to come back and get that Premier League goal scoring record. Bruno should go to the board.
We're the ones to do it, yeah?
Yeah, go bring Harry Kane to the theatre. I said this 2 years ago on the channel. I'm saying it now. Yeah, look, we're going down a rabbit hole there, but yeah.
Go on. Talk to me about Prague then, since we're here now. It's been an hour.
Yeah, it's been an hour. Yeah. What do you want to know? Like,
what do you mean, what do I want to know? I saw the whole thing unfold. I want to know your thoughts on it. The fact that they gave you no hope and then they gave you some hope and then they crushed you again. I think the Irish FA were naive to give Jaime a contract before the playoffs because I think job's not done. You're just rewarding him for not getting the job done before he doesn't get the job done. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
And obviously, I think the way it panned out, I think you should have come away with. I think you should definitely at least gone to a home tie to go to the World Cup. You should definitely got through that. And the Ryan Manning hate watches from you since, I think, are almost generational. Not quite. Matt Doherty was the generational one.
Yeah, every international break, I was just waiting for the squad announcement to see if Matt Doherty was being called up, and then I was like, right, am I going to international break with rage or hope? But no, look, I think I would slightly disagree on the Heimer contract because I feel like with the previous Nations League campaign plus the World Cup campaign, I can see what he's trying to do. I think if you said to any Irish fan after Yerevan, after what happened against Armenia, that we would have a puncher's chance of getting to the World Cup, we would have said you're mad. For him to get them results against Hungary and Portugal and do it the way we done it, I think it was amazing. And I feel like going to Prague, we had hope. Like if we can get through that game against Czech Republic, that we would have taken either Denmark or North Macedonia in the playoff final. Obviously, it wasn't to be. I think we were the much better team in Prague. I feel like especially when 2-0 up, I felt like, look, we're cruising. And I felt like, we keep going like this, we're going to win this game, maybe 3-4-0. That's what it felt like because we were battering them, we were all over them. They Czech Republic could not play out from the back. Our press was brilliant. Troy Parrott was dangerous as he always is. Our Benny was pressing quite well. Our midfield was quite good. Taylor and Malumbi were aggressive, and I felt like, look, we're really there. This was a classic Irish performance. Jack Charlton said back in the day, like, put them under pressure. Like, that's the way it was. And the commentator actually said it like 2 or 3 minutes before we conceded the goal, which is kind of the curse of the commentator nearly, where he said, look, we just need to keep it like this now. Don't do anything stupid. Bring it into halftime 2-0. We can see the stupid corner. And then we get rid of it. Ball comes back into the box, and Ryan Manning just decided see what really gets me with this is he pulls and drags out of the Czech Republic defender when Nathan Collins was covering the other side. Your man was actually going nowhere. The worst thing that was going to happen is he was going to get to the byline, but he didn't have enough time to whip a ball in because Collins was in front of him. The worst case scenario that would have happened is that Czech Republic would have got at best probably another corner kick, which we were defending. We were defending quite well in the game before that. That happened. Obviously, they get the penalty, they score. Then we had a couple of good chances in that second half. We hit the post. Matty Kovar, former Man United keeper, ironically, pulls off a couple of worldly saves in the second half, and then it was a sucker punch right before with 7 minutes to go. We concede a free kick that Robbie Brady wins the ball, but then Alan Brown, who ironically missed the penalty in the shootout, fouls the Czech Republic player that didn't need to foul him because there was two of them there. And then again, another stupid decision costs us the World Cup because essentially we go to extra time. We bring on Sammy Smodics. I think the way everything went, because we brought on Sammy Smodics to take a penalty, I think by the way he brought him on, Smodics literally gets his first touch of the ball, gets flattened by their player, which was bad injury. I hope he's actually okay. Because it was a quite bad head injury that he sustained. But the referee didn't even give a free kick. He had to wait for the fucking fourth official to tell him, like, look, Sammy Smodics is down with a bad injury. Didn't even book the man either. Like the Czech Republic players didn't get a yellow card until 90th minute, even though they're killing Irish players all over the pitch. Like, I could go on and on about this game, like how, like, just how things didn't go our way, even though we had like such a good opening. And I just feel like I never felt so deflated after a game of football since Gdansk 2021. So yeah, you know how
stop talking about Gdansk. Move on, please. I never want to think about that.
Yeah,
I've never been that empty.
I'm going to continue.
Bilbao didn't make me that empty.
Yeah, like, but in terms of feeling, what I'm saying is I didn't feel that way in terms of being deflated after a game of football. Because I thought, like, look, it was a great chance to get to the World Cup. I think like the lift the Irish football team has done to give this country, I think, has been amazing in the last 6 months. And like, if you look at hindsight, and hindsight's a beautiful thing. But if you look at how Czech Republic then done against Denmark and beat them on penalties in the second leg, we would have battered Denmark at home. That's a very depleted Denmark team, and it would have been great to get revenge on them, but it wasn't to be. So I think you look at it, I think you have to take it. As sour as it is, you have to take it. I think the future of Irish football, though, is in a very, very, very strong place. Because I look at I suppose the current squad we have now is quite good. I think you've seen the discussion me and Sean were having on the nucleus of our squad. Like, I think we have a brilliant goalkeeper. We have a very strong base of centre backs. I think we can probably improve on the left back situation, because I think Manning had a good campaign, but that one game does that like kill his Irish career now, you know. Like Liam Scales is a good centre back, but he's not really a left back. So I think we kind of need an upgrade in that left back position. I think right back, you have like Festi Ebezelli is probably going to be the Irish right back going forward. Because I think Seamus Coleman is probably going to low key retire, which I think it's sad. Because I think I think of all the Irish players in that squad who deserve to go to that World Cup, I think it was him more than anybody. I think for his contribution to the country and how good he's been, I think he definitely deserved to go to that World Cup. But yeah, man, like, I think the future is looking bright. I think we have a lot of good forwards. I think our wingers are quite good. We've a good attacking midfielders, like Harvey Vale now coming in, who's, I think, a very good footballer. Finn Azaz, as bad of a penalty it was, I think he's quite good footballer, playing very well for Southampton. Had a good game last night actually against Arsenal, which is where the fuck was that in Prague? You know, like, I think the problem we have is hole in midfield, but I think, look, that's the problem it's been for the last 3 or 4 years. But we're kind of waiting on some of them younger lads to come through to fill that gap. So obviously the likes of Jacob Devaney's coming through. Obviously you have John Patrick Finn as well, who's playing in the French league. Then you have, Collins back from injury. He was having a great season for club and country before he done his ACL as well. So I think there's a lot of things to be excited about because the way the younger teams are playing, I think you look at the nucleus that's there. Then I haven't even mentioned the depth we have up front. We have a Troy Parrott, Evan Ferguson. God knows what happens to him when he comes back from his injury. Joey Adam Ida, who's doing well there, Johnny Kenny, and then there's talk Liam Delap is going to declare for Ireland. Now, if that happens, I know he hasn't had the greatest of seasons with Chelsea, but in terms of getting him in for striker depth, I don't think he starts for us if he comes to us. Genuinely, I think Troy Parrott's our number one undisputed striker now. I think he's competing with Evan Ferguson for that backup striker role for us. I think if you look at Parrott's form for club and country this year, what is he on 30-something goals or something for club and country this season? So and AC Milan are fucking looking at him that. I think that shows how well Troy Parrott's playing. So I think we have a lot of things to be excited about. I think Heimir deserves to get the Nations League campaign. I think he deserves to get the qualifying campaign for Euro 2028. Like I said in the chat, if barring the biggest disaster in history, Ireland will be at Euro 2028 because we're a host nation. We'd have to, Northern Ireland would have to do unbelievably well. Wales would have to do unbelievably well, and so would Scotland before we don't get to the Euros. So, not 2 out of then or 4 countries aren't going to do well, and that's going to be Wales, Northern Ireland. So, I think we go to Euro 2028 with a lot of promise. We have plenty of home games in that tournament as well at the Aviva, which we're actually unbeaten in 7 games at home now. Whereas if you look at our record under Stephen Kenny, Julio, before that, it was quite bleak. We were losing to teams very lower than us in the rankings at home and away. So I think we're in a good space. Do I think it's a massive missed opportunity that we didn't get to the World Cup? Yes. But if you ask me after Armenia, would we have that chance to be a penalty shootout away from possibly going to a World Cup? You spoke to me after Armenia. You know what I was like after Armenia.
I remember that. I do remember. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah. If you said to me then, you're going to beat Portugal, you're going to beat Hungary, you're going to batter Czech Republic, and you're not going to go to the World Cup, I would have said, fuck. It's good we had the chance, I would have said. But I know at the time I was devastated. I was heartbroken. The whole country was. Even Sean, who's he's probably watching this or listening to this, he's not a fan of international football. We were talking, we was fuck. It's actually heartbreaking. But I think that moment against Czech Republic is actually going to be a moment in our history that we look back on and say, that's the catalyst for us. Success is winning a trophy. We're not going to win a World Cup. We're not going to win the Euros. We're not going to do a Greece on it and do that. But I think it's a catalyst for us to be regularly qualifying for tournaments. I think that's the thing I'm kind of looking forward to.
Sorry, I was typing something because something went wrong on here, so I was trying to fix it. No, I was listening to all of that, and I think you made actually a lot of good points, and I actually do agree with you a lot of the things. I remember how overjoyed you were when with the Hungary and the Portugal results, and I looked at those performances, and I thought, you know what, this could actually happen. And then in the build up to the Czech Republic game, I blame you for this. You got me thinking it was possible as well. You prick.
Oh man, all that stuff I was sending you on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah. Man. I'm going to shamelessly admit this. I did the pay-per-view on Amazon because I couldn't be bothered to find a stream that evening to watch the game. So I paid £2 of my own money to watch Ireland bottle it. And I'm fuming because I genuinely thought that if they got through, they might have actually gone to the World Cup.
Just to let the people in the comments know, he was actually going to come over for one of the group stage games as well.
Yep.
We had a whole thing,
but that was going to happen. So
yeah, you're still going to come over. You're going to go to Man United and Leeds in August. We're going to do that in Dublin anyway.
Right. Yes. Let's not get too crazy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let the comments know I'm dragging him to Ireland this summer at some point anyway, whether it's my
So
birthday or United leagues.
he's dragging me to Ireland. The amount of times he keeps saying, "Let's go on a two-man in Ireland," and I have to remind him that I am loyal to my love back home here. So don't give me this. He's just been going on. Oh, when you come to Ireland, we're going to go on a two-man, and I'm like, what?
You've just done this live on YouTube. Fuck.
Yes, I'm aware I've done it live on YouTube.
Yeah, like look,
I have
yeah,
no iconic moments on this website, so I might as well have one stupid moment.
yeah. But look, no, it'll be. I think look, all bullshit aside, I think the Irish football from where it was pre-Heimir to where it is now, it's in a good spot. Is he the man to take us forward to be regular qualifiers? He could be, because he done it with Iceland. He could be. But obviously with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being available and the fact we've talked to him, with
We
the
as in
squad
the
we
Irish
have,
FA, not we as in you and me. You and me have no contact with Ollie.
yeah, not me. I wish I'd contact with Ole. I'd be ringing him every day. But like, yeah, like the FAI have talked to him, and there was talk that was going to be him and Roy Keane coming in. Fucking hell, talk about good cop, bad cop. That would literally be good cop, bad cop if Ollie and Roy Keane did come in. But yeah, I think we're in a good place. I think Tri-Parrot is the next best thing since sliced bread. And yeah, we're in a very, very good spot. And bring on Euro 2028. That's going to be a very, very good summer. I think we lost Julio. Did we? No.
I'm here, but my AirPod disconnected, so I wasn't quite. I was trying to reconnect it, and then for some reason, when my AirPod dies and I put the other one in, it changes all the settings for some reason, and it stops working for a moment. So I'll just checking to fix it. But no, I am here. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. I think on the island thing quickly, I can actually see from the last international break and this one just gone. I can kind of see what Jaime is trying to do, and I think it is promising, especially with the crop that you've got, but whether it's going to be enough, I couldn't tell you at this moment in time. I just think we have to wait and see. I think early in the campaign did hurt you.
Yeah, I think that draw against Hungary against 10 men,
Of
even
course,
though
but
it killed us, and then I think that Armenia result, like it's mad. I was talking to Sean about this and I said, we're a couple of moments of madness away from qualifying as group winners, which is crazy considering we had Portugal, the Nations League winners in their group. You know, like we were last minute dagger.
At least you didn't do what Wales did for the Euros, the last Euros, where they were just happy to be involved, and then it got to the final couple of games, and then they went, "Shit, we might need to try now because qualification is actually on the cards. If only we'd done that sooner in the
we went for it from the start. Like we went for it from the start. Like
at least you did it from the beginning.
Yeah, we were like a last minute goal in Portugal. We nearly beat Hungary at home, but we drew 2-2. We lost against Armenia, which was fucking probably the darkest day I've had as an Irish fan. And yeah, we beat Portugal and Hungary. Like we done like if there's ever an Irish way to do things, was this qualifying campaign, because we done it the hard way. Like we were going into them last two games and was like, right, okay, lads, you don't have a hope really, but go in and beat Hungary, who had a massive unbeaten run at home, was like 18 games unbeaten or something at home, and then you beat the Nations League champions with Ronaldo going for 1,000 goals, and you know that Portuguese team alone that was playing that day. Like, I think that's why we had so much hope, because like we had a decent campaign on leading up to that, bar Armenia, but we were playing decent football, but then it's the way we played Portugal off the park that day. As in, it wasn't just like a, do you know like a typical, do you know when we beat Germany back in 2015 when we booted up to Shane Long, we beat them 1-0. Like that was a smash and grab, right? When we beat Germany that day. But that was that game where we beat Germany 1-0 at the Aviva. But when we beat Portugal at home, we were the better team. We were the better football team on the day. Like, we had the better chances in the game. Queeveen Keller had a few saves to make, but he didn't make any. Like, it wasn't a backs against the wall. And then against Hungary, like, it was just an open game of football between us, and we were not the favourites to win that game at all, like, at all. And they were unbeaten in like 17 or 18 games or something before that. And we went on and done what we done. So, yeah, as I say, Julio, it's the hope that kills you, but the future is bright, man.
Well, actually, your hope kills you, but your hope just makes me laugh because it destroys you. So it's quite funny to watch from a distance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was so depressed. Like,
listen, your nation weren't the only one to bottle a lead, right? We were away in Poland, us Albanians, and we were 1-0 up, and then suddenly Poland. My cousin, by the way, shout out to you, you dick, right? 5 minutes before they equalised, Lewandowski had a chance, and I said to him, like, that was close. And he went, I'm not worried about Lewandowski. Old man, he's not going to do anything. Scores the next chance he gets. I'm like, and he went, oh, God hates me. I was like, no, I hate you. I hate you for that. And then they scored another a few minutes later, which I think was it was a pretty good goal, if I remember rightly. And then it was just never recoverable from there.
yeah.
I didn't really have the same hope as you did.
Yeah, because you're playing against Poland, like, they would have been expected to beat you, like.
Yeah, no, but I didn't expect us to do much. I think the problem is like there's only so much we can actually do, because we don't have like we weren't as evenly matched maybe with Poland in terms of the crop of players, like you might have been Ireland to Czech Republic. There was more of a parity between us and Poland on paper compared to yourself and Czech Republic. But yeah, anyway, I can't believe we've been here for 1 hour and 26 minutes.
You've been shooting the shit, man.
Just talking and talking at this point, genuinely. Where can what's next for you? What's coming up? Where can everyone find you?
What's next for me? Fuck. Oh, we messing. No, I'm back on Talking Devils this Friday with Phil and Lee. We finally have a game to talk about, so we're going to be chatting all things United. Next weekend we're playing Leeds United at home, so that's going to be exciting, smashing them bastards again. And then after that, I'd probably be doing some sort of video on my channel. Me and Shane Gunner will be hitting the YouTube again. I believe we'll have to talk about Arsenal getting over the line. I think that's going to happen. And yeah, look, you can obviously find me on Keen Talks United YouTube channel, and then also on Talking Devils as well with Lee and Phil. And yeah, so you can obviously find me on other socials like X if you want to follow me there and see what bullshit I'm tweeting or retweeting every other day. If you want to abuse me, work away on your little fake profiles. Yeah, like that's just me. And yeah, subscribe to Julio here on Red Brew as you do.
Yeah, I don't know what's next for me. I've just had a lot going in my life in the last couple of months, and I'm just trying to navigate through all of that at this point. So I can't.
You'll find him in Ireland in the summer, lads, in the pub with me.
Right, sure. On the 2-man, yeah, as you like to put it.
Yeah.
As a disclaimer, I will not be on a 2-man. I will just be sitting there enjoying my drinks, enjoying the sun and the World Cup.
Yeah.
But yes, we will be there.
While I'm up dancing on the table, cheering for any team that's playing against England.
It's the ultimate hate watch.
Yeah.
It should be quite interesting to be in a pub and everyone is hate watching.
Man, we were hate watching England before the Hungary game. In the pub, because we were playing Hungary later that day. I think England were playing Andorra or something. Now, obviously, England scored a goal, but Declan Rice scored for England, and the whole pub unanimously in Dublin just booed. Like there was Hungary fans in our pub, and the Hungary fans were booing Declan Rice, and we were booing Declan Rice. And it was like, yeah, everyone just fucking hates England.
Everyone hates the English. I think even the English hate the English, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you guys know where to, if anyone is still watching or anyone is seeing this, you kind of know where to find me. Find me on X, just tweeting about stuff. follow me on here, subscribe, like, share, subscribe, hype the video, and yeah, until next time, I'll see you in a while.